What's up, everybody? It's Gobo, and this is the Lunar Harpoon Podcast. Episode number 2. I'm here with the lovely Regina. Regina, say hi.
Hello.
And her equally handsome husband, Eddie. Eddie, what's going on, man?
Not much. How you doing?
Good. So, to pick up our discussion from last time, we're talking about movies and kind of, the ethos that makes them work, or in some cases, not work. So, yeah, we're gonna visit a film that is confounding to me personally, called Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. So, this movie is directed by Luc Besson, who I love. Fifth Element, Luke the Professional. Just it had all the right elements. What went wrong? Just jump in. Whoever wants to spitball this one.
Everything. Anytime you hear the word passion project, just run away. Just don't watch it. It's gonna be bad.
The way I wrote it down was this movie reminded me of like a House of Cards. It's beautiful on the outside and it's just gorgeous, but just the slightest kind of wind or disturbance will just knock it all over. There's just so many things that are going on that it's really hard to really just put logic behind it. Like, why is that like that? Don't think about it.
Sure. Well, that's kind of how and it's a good way of describing it. It's like watching this movie, I was almost entertained with how visually nice it looked. Everything was, the graphics were very well rendered. All the people in it were relatively good looking. I mean, it was good makeup, hair, settings, all that stuff. What kind of threw me off is there seemed to be no semblance of a plot. The script kind of didn't go anywhere, and there was no chemistry between any of the actors.
And I don't know. I was kind of thinking about it the second time I watched it. Sadly, the second time, and it kind of reminded me of the issue with Star Wars where they green screened them to death, and the fact that there's only like 5 or 6 human actors may play into it. We were looking up trivia, and if you write a 600-page book and you require all of your actors to read it, you would think that they would know what the heck they're doing. But I think the only people that benefited that were the character actors that were doing all the green screen stuff. The main actors, nothing, absolutely nothing. He's supposed to be like an international playboy, rugged, handsome dude,
right.
And it's this pipsqueak that I just want to punch in the face all day long. Instead.
And that's I hate movies where they have to tell you the exposition of the character. It's like that's probably why I can't get into like the Jason Bourne movies. Is they're like, that's Jason Bourne, he's a great assassin. Like it's like, can I make that assessment on my own? Like he seems okay.
Yeah.
So they did that within like the first couple of scenes in the movie. They're just like, oh, I'm the Cara Delevingn's character is just like, I'm really smart, and then Valerian, which if you ever forget his name, they yell it like 7,000 times throughout the movie.
With a drinking game, you would die.
Yeah, like Valerian is just like, I'm a big tough soldier and I'm follow the rules, but not really. And the ladies love me, and it's just like, man, I guess I don't need to watch the movie now. I already know what the character should do.
Well, plus they kind of wrote him as kind of a douchebag type of character because he has a playlist. Who has a playlist? Were they implying that he recorded everything that he does?
Right.
I mean,
or he just keeps a portfolio and is like little notches on his bed, like, oh yeah, I did her. Ooh, did her too. He's not a likable character. What little character he had is not likable. Everything they tell you about him is horrific, basically.
Sure.
And he's mean to kids. He
was
totally mean to
kids.
He wasn't being playful. He told that little kid alien to go back to his mama after he wiped slime in his face, and the kid started crying. There was like no like oops or anything on his face. He was just like, oh yeah, bye.
Well, being sympathetic towards the plight of children, I don't think makes a good action hero, but
it would make him human.
That whole sequence was just a great example of another unnecessary scene they wanted to do because they're like, oh, Joe from rendering came up with this great drawing of an alien. Can we throw that in? Yeah, why not? We have 195 million euros. So
that would be funny though if that did really work with the hero stereotype. You see him like doing a flip in a 80s movie, doing like a flip in a car, so like a kid's like getting beat up by a bully, he shoots the kid. Continues the flip goes on.
He's like, I got this, guys.
That's the hero for you, everybody.
Yeah. Oh man. So Valerian, I don't know what to think. And plus, between the two leads, Cara Delevingne plays Laurelie. Is that her name? Lorelai, whatever. Yeah, it's
starts with an L. That's
L.
The name not worth remembering.
And I'd like to say that whether or not this character was within her range or not, but I mean the only other thing I ever remember seeing her in was that abortion of a movie, Suicide Squad. Where she did her big eyes and then did the hula dance.
The weird, sexy hula dance.
Well, what killed me about that is that as we were reading before, like in the main comic book, Laureline is Valerian basically. She's the main heroine. She's the main main person.
Sure.
Valerian's only at the beginning and he's at the end. The thing is I mean they really kind of dumbed her down to make her a really like a woman in trouble. They didn't really make her
gave her the
person.
damsel arc.
Yes. I wrote down, because although this is the second time I've had to point this out on a podcast, and when we do Justice League it'll be a third time, but I swear to God I'm not a He-Man man hater here, but I swear
Tell that
to
the clubhouse, honey.
Yeah, exactly. I swear, honestly, guys, I'm not. But here are the things that he did to women, and this is a guy who knows how to write women normally. We're going to forget about Fifth Element. He did not write that woman normally. But La Femme Nikita, the original French version La Femme Nikita, which he wrote, is beautiful, and she's a great character. And so he knows how to write a strong female, and he's been quoted as saying, like, this was his first crush, is this character in this comic book. But in the first 5 minutes, we have the crazy, what did you call those aliens? The little, like,
oh yeah, the
pearl aliens.
The pearl aliens. Yeah, I called them the lady boys.
Yeah. So the lady boy alien, wakes up and is doing this super girly cartoon Snow White wake up out of a sound sleep looking beautiful dance. She actually pinches her cheeks, which I don't know if the two of you know this. It used to be an old trick by Hollywood starlets to make themselves look alive and awake after a hard day of filming.
That's pretty much my morning ritual.
Yeah, they would pinch their cheeks, and it was considered like to make them look like flushed and happy and hot.
I think I remember hearing like a vague something about that.
Yeah.
After a while, that's just broken veins in your cheek, and you look like a weirdo.
Well, then you're permanently flushed, so that way you don't even have to put on your blush. So
then you're Gary Busey.
Yeah, right.
So she pinches her cheek. She flirts all girly. We're not even going to talk about her death. And then you switch to Laureline, who in the first 5 minutes of him talking to her complains about men not making commitments. He complains about her driving. When they have the whole big chase scene and they have managed to escape, she's like, they ruined my dress. And then later on, when she has the little pretty pet thing, she's cooing to it for no apparent reason. And then when it sheds diamonds, she says that she wants to take it shopping. Does he not like women? Was there a big breakup that happened with him and women somewhere right as Fifth Element was built all the way to now? Does he just thinks that they're just pretty? Is that what the deal is?
I have kind of a theory about it, because Luc Besson, I don't think is trying to write as chauvinistically as he is. I think that he
somehow.
I know, right? So hear me out. I think that he tries to write female characters, but lets his own weird fetishisms kind of work their way in. So
I like the girls, but
it's like
ones.
I like girls in short dresses and who cry a lot. So that's
preferably they don't.
It's kind of like watching Quentin Tarantino and Uma Thurman's feet. It's like, does it fit into the story? No, but he's gonna put it in there anyways. You gotta kind of just look the other way.
But this is an entire movie.
Right. Yeah.
An entire movie.
It kind of makes me wonder too, like how much of this he was writing for his own, because it's supposed to be a work of passion, and it makes me wonder how much he wrote as a work of passion and how much he wrote as a trying to pander to an audience and try to get people to watch it. It's like, does he think like, this is what Americans want?
And then does he twirl a little mustache?
Of course.
Oh.
As he has tied to train tracks.
He's very French looking. Yeah, I'm looking at a picture of him right now. But so there's our problems with Cara Delavigny. I'm trying to say it.
Delavine, maybe.
Trying to say it phonetically.
We're gonna say Kara for the rest of the podcast.
Hula girl. We'll call her that.
Hula girl.
So the other lead, Valerian, played by Dane Dehaan, a little bit easier to say, is maybe the worst casted role of the year. They took so Dane Dehaan is famous for like Place Beyond the Pines is the only other movie I've ever seen him in, and he plays like kind of like a weirdo, like a weird kind of drug addict, moody type teenage kid, and it's like it works because he has kind of like that weird teenage moody flair to him. Nothing about that really says action hero.
I mean, they would have been what they wanted. Seems to be, and I saw the drawings of the comics. I went and I looked them up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Take a peek.
Strong jaw.
They wanted Thor.
Yeah.
Okay, they wanted Chris Hemsworth.
Sure.
Flirty, charismatic, Harrison Ford. I know what you want. Hint, hint. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. Guy, and they cast this guy who has no chemistry with her, but no chemistry with the audience. He has nothing about him that says he should be an actor ever.
Well, I mean, he can play a sympathetic character, but you don't feel sympathetic with a guy who's like gets all the girls and shoots all the aliens and flies a spaceship. Like,
well, and what was sympathetic? I mean, he was so weird because they didn't really know what they were doing with him. They said at the end he's like, I like the rules.
Yeah, that.
When? What rules were you doing? And at the beginning,
that part bothered me.
He was like, I have a perfect memory. I remember everything. And then he's like, oh yeah, I'm such a good agent. I didn't even read the brief.
Or when's your birthday?
Yeah, and he forgot her birthday.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, he has a perfect
point.
memory and forgets the woman he loves' birthday. Plus, you feel like you were dropped in the middle of their relationship. And you're not sure whether or not they were actually dating before. Mm-hmm. They seem very hesitant to even kiss. So have they been together? Have they not been together?
Their relationship, yeah, their whole relationship is an enigma, if nothing else. Because it's like, it's like, oh, I just want to sleep with you, and it's like, I'm not gonna sleep with you because you've been with all these girls, and he's like randomly proposes.
Yeah, and then she was like, I'll think about it. Wait, what?
It's
you
like,
weren't
what?
even gonna sleep with him.
I was like, yeah, like you drive a car before you buy it.
You think
so? And then at the end, it's just. It just makes no sense. Yeah, like the whole. I play by the rules. It's like since
you just knocked out your general.
For one, you like okay. So they wanted two things. They wanted the pearl, and they wanted the pearl, the lizard that shits more pearls.
Yes.
And so he gives him the pearl, and then he's about to give him the lizard, and he's just like, I can't. It's like you just gave him the pearl.
Yeah.
Like you're literally doing the same thing you just did 4 seconds before. So anyway, so Valerian, terrible. An enigmatic movie. So see it if you want. I don't know. A lot of you probably like it.
I don't recommend it. I don't. Unlike The Fifth Element, which grew on me and is now a favorite, and I can look past all of its many, many, many flaws, this is not one that I believe I will be able to look over because no matter how beautiful it is, it needed, like I told you, it needed subtitles. Subtitles of a different script. They needed to not open their mouths ever.
This movie would be amazing with the mute on.
Yeah, exactly. What is it? Dragon Ball Z Abridged. It needs that.
Oh yeah, with someone
that
else.
Treatment.
Someone else putting the feeding all the lines to the characters.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so rough because like even at the end to give it like some kind of controversy, they had to do exposition on Valerian. I follow the rules. That's why I base my whole life on following the rules. And
right.
It's like, dude, their commander is literally unconscious over there because you just knocked him out. Is that that's rule 45545 of the Space Cadet Handbook, so just so everybody knows, like what?
It's confusing.
And Rihanna.
Rihanna, yeah. I just went past a picture of her on the IMDb. Rihanna. Let's all just say, what the hell? Like,
why do they keep casting her in movies?
Well, my favorite part of the of her sexy what was it, the type of alien she was? She was a
changeling,
a glamoid or something.
Oh yeah,
glamour pod, whatever.
Yeah,
that can
glamour pod.
changes her physical appearance at a whim, and she like trained at all the best dance academies. Well, they did all the dancing, but then they swapped her out with a body double whenever it came to like the complicated dance moves that Rihanna didn't know how to do herself. A couple of times the girls did not look at all like Rihanna.
We paused it. We paused it on your recommendation.
One of them was like a tall white girl.
Yeah,
I was like, that's like the opposite of Rihanna.
Yeah, that's something I noticed too. I was like, I think I see it. Wait, right there.
Yeah, he made me rewind it and go back just because you had said something. Because I was like, well, on the big screen it wasn't as obvious, but on the small screen, it's obvious.
It's pretty rough, yeah. So
and I will say that on the small screen, it did not look as good. On the big screen, it looked beautiful. That whole opening sequence, which you were not actually impressed with because you saw it on the small screen.
Right.
The whole opening sequence of the David Bowie song playing in the background, which Major Tom, David Bowie is amazing, and each captain meeting the new people and it's getting bigger and bigger, and it was kind of organic, and you immediately knew what had happened. You didn't need any words, thank goodness, because he would have effed it up. You just needed to see that. And you kind of got an idea of what the tone of the movie was going to be. It was slightly tongue-in-cheek because they had a couple of giggle, ha-ha moments. But it was supposed to be
or whatever, yeah.
Beautiful and awesome and epic, which the rest of the movie was not. If he would have spent a quarter of that time on the rest of the movie, as he did on the opening sequence, it would have been amazing. You can tell what he was going for, and then it was just like, never mind, I'm going to cast this person, and the Americans like this. And
an interesting point with this opening sequence and how it was, it's composed with this very classic song, like a classic rock song, kind of a folksy song, and just really kind of simple visuals. It reminds me of another movie, and it's like The Watchmen. At the very almost the same. And I know you hate The Watchmen.
I hate The Watchmen.
I love The Watchmen.
The movie is good. It pales in comparison to the book, which most movies do. But it had the same kind of thing. It had subtlety. That one scene in the whole movie had subtlety to it. So a lot can be said. That's the only thing that you remember as a positive out of this movie, and it was a subtle scene. I didn't like it because I thought it was a little gaudy looking. It was kind of ridiculous. It was like, okay, here's like a real footage of astronauts in space, and then here's our studio version of that. Here's our filmed version of that, and it's a little cleaner. And then it's like the Indian guys walk in and they're wearing like gold spacesuits, and I'm like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah, it was a little weird,
but it got weird really quick.
But it was the style. He was very, very clearly pronouncing what style that he was going for, and you immediately got it. You're like, okay, so it's not going to be entirely realistic. It's going to be an exaggerated version of what you would expect to see, because there's no way an Indian dude would go into space wearing a gold turban or astronaut outfit.
I hope not. It seems, yeah.
Although if he did, he's fabulous,
yeah.
and that's a good thing. But you understood what he was going for, and that's what it was supposed to do. And then the rest of the movie just didn't hold up to it. Just like, I will say, the opening sequence to The Watchmen, I had never read The Watchmen. It made sense, though, watching the opening sequence. Okay, I'm like, okay, I get it. It's an alternate history. There's all these heroes, and it's set up for what I thought I was about to watch. And then it was just nothing.
Plus Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like old school folk music in like a theatrical setting. So, so cool. So that's Valerian. Terrible. Now we're gonna bridge over. We're about at the halfway point. A little past. Wow. Yeah, we always run over on these things.
Yeah. We're good like that.
Yeah. Right. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about another French director. Denis Villeneuve directed Blade Runner 2049, a film that I was ecstatic with after waiting, however long since the original Blade Runner, 27 years, and I really enjoyed it. It's a grind. It's definitely a slow burn, but I thought the casting decisions and the script were great. I know that Regina does not necessarily agree with that sentiment, though.
It's off and on. Unlike something like Valerian, which is poorly done, beautifully shot, but all flash now substance. The problem with Blade Runner 2049 is not the same. Blade Runner 2049 was obviously made by somebody who was trying to be very faithful to the genre, who, from all accounts, was a big fan, and who Ridley Scott had always said he wasn't sure that anybody should ever make a sequel to it because it could kind of jack with the original. Even the director's cut, I think he had an issue with.
Well, there's so many director's cuts of the original.
I know, right? And full disclosure, I've never seen the original Blade Runner, so I walked into it cold on purpose because I wanted it to stand for itself. I didn't want any of that weird nostalgia stuff. And look how young he looks in this, and now look how wretched old poor Harrison Ford is looking now. I wanted to just walk into it cold and see, is it a good movie or not? Is it a good movie? That depends on your taste in movies. It's not poorly done for the most part.
I want to put it out there. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely amazing. Yeah. I thought visually it was amazing. I thought the storyline was great.
No.
It doesn't have to, it wasn't necessarily rainbows and flowers every 5 minutes, but it was amazing.
Ever. There was no joy in this movie.
Well, that's the thing.
One suicidal slog to the end. It was just so depressing.
It's an ugly world. The Blade Runner future of 2049. It's an ugly world. It's we're using clones to fight our battles and mine our whatever minerals in space, and everyone's poor and there's not enough food and there's no sunlight. Yeah, I mean, we get it. Like I said, it's an ugly world, but the characters that live within it are so interesting and deep. And I even Ryan Gosling's character. Who, that's kind of the big arc of the movie. Is he a clone? Is he not a clone? But, they reveal, immediately, yes, he is. But then there's, it goes deeper than that. It develops into more of a story. So, I'm a huge fan of Blade Runner. And I think it's probably Harrison Ford has a lot to do with that. Because, a big Star Wars fan and stuff. And, Harrison Ford basically was our generation's action hero. So, I mean...
Sure, I'll buy that. But the issue with it is... When you're making a sequel to something that's amazing, like if you tried to do a Dark City or Equilibrium, for example, you'd be competing with some major nerd rage. And they were stepping very carefully and very delicately, but you're not just making it for the original fans, you're supposed to be bringing in a new generation of fans. After watching 2049, I didn't want to watch the original. I now no longer want to see the original, which I've always wanted to watch it. It's been sitting on my shelf for years. We bought the director's cut.
Oh, yeah.
Just so I could watch it. And then when I heard this one was coming out, I was like, wait, I'll watch it beforehand. Then I was like, you know what? No, I won't. Let's just see where it goes. And it went there.
I mean, I think part of the thing is a lot of people have, what I would almost consider the Disney syndrome, where they grew up watching Disney movies where it's supposed to be, here's your something bad that happens, here's your hero, here's the middle part, and then everything is perfect at the end, everything becomes better at the end. And it's that's a kind of a traditional way to film and make a movie as far as scene and write it. This movie, in my opinion, I thought it still had a happy ending, but I think that the fact that Ryan Gosling died kind of stuck in some people's craw, oh man, he died at the end. That's it's really sad and bleak.
Well,
but
it's not a happy
ending. It's a
ending.
sad and bleak.
It's major spoilers if you haven't seen this.
Right, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Huge spoiler. No,
Sorry.
But seriously.
No, I mean it's been out for long enough. They should know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the most depressing ending I can come up with.
Han Solo dies at the end of Force Awakens.
Yeah. I already knew.
Lost was in purgatory. Just so
exactly.
Everybody knows.
See, I still don't understand that fucking show. Yeah, I mean, it was a very Denis Villeneuve ending. Have you seen The Arrival or Sicario? There isn't a good guy and a bad guy and a character arc, and there's not a goal-driven thing in the movie. It's not we need to get this and then everything will be right and everything will be fine again. It becomes very convoluted. So
I felt like the whole movie was convoluted. He did The Arrival, the new one.
Yeah, with Amy Adams and the octopuses.
A major, beautiful movie, and not for everybody. The Arrival is just about perfection for what he was going for.
Sure.
This movie, I didn't feel it, and I didn't feel that. It's not Disney syndrome to want to have meaning. It's not a happy ending that you need. It's meaning that you need. everything that they did from start to finish came up with nothing at the end. It was,
you don't think that them having meaning for their life at that point is...
There is no meaning. Now they're both going to be on the run. She's wasted her entire life being told that she has some kind of weird genetic disposition to die. Now she's, quote, free, but she's going to be on the run from old Jared Leto crazy eyes and the rebellion who wanted to kill them anyway. So how is that happy? The rebellion's still going on. Clones are still being made. He's still stabbing them in the stomach for no apparent reason whatsoever, even though I'm sure it takes a while to grow one. He's just like, no, doesn't work.
That's not what he wanted, yeah.
You know, it's really interesting to think about this movie compared to Valerian, compared to Blade Runner, because they're both what I would consider to be high fantasy movies. You know, one is in space, one is on Earth, obviously, but they're both, high fantasy movies.
Well, it's all everybody's like, their version of what they think the future will be. Yeah, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're okay. It's just so interesting to look at Valerian and be like, this is so beautiful. The colors are amazing. The storyline is terrible. And then you have Blade Runner, in my opinion, where it's like, man, the colors are really dulled down and it's really kind of bleak, but the storyline is amazing. It's just interesting to look at the two different movies and be like, man, it'd be nice to kind of have both those guys have a meeting and be like, you take a little piece of me, I take a little piece of you.
They could have it in French.
It probably would have been better in French.
And then the movie just suddenly comes together. It's like, hey, we just created this one movie out of these two. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, I had a major problem with this movie for many, many, many issues. And again, the problem isn't that it's poorly done, unlike a lot of other movies. It is as well done as they could, and I think it was actually what they were going for. I did not feel sympathetic, hardly any, toward Ryan Gosling, because by design he had to keep a stone face the entire time, and he had no personality for me.
So Ryan Gosling.
Exactly.
That's his character.
Now,
basically everything.
He wasn't bad in some other films.
No, I like him as an actor, but that's his thing.
Yeah, he keeps his stone face down, and the people that he interacts with, every single one of them is one-dimensional. Every one of them is just in the scene, out of the scene, in the scene, out of the scene, and they never give you any hint of personality whatsoever. The person with the most personality was Dave Bautista, and he bites it in the first 3 minutes.
You thought Dave Bautista had personality?
Because you knew exactly what was going on. You knew that he was willing to sacrifice himself. You knew that he was a very restrained individual, that he was able to keep on the DL. You knew that he loved to farm and to grow and organic. And even toward the end, you started to learn things about him, that he hid the baby and that he was instrumental in the thing. I knew more about him than I knew about Ryan Gosling.
I mean, let's just assume that these clones can be pre-programmed, right? Or they have these pre-programmed personalities or ideas.
Sure, yeah.
And, especially when they go in there and they have him do that psychological evaluation every single time he goes out and he kills another clone. Or what are they, it's not clone, what are they called?
Replicants.
When he killed, thank you. When he kills another replicant, they have him go in and they have him do a psychological evaluation. So that tells you right there that, this guy does have emotions. But think about if they're able to pre-program this guy, he has to kill his own people.
Sure.
Every single time. So that's
he's a Blade Runner. That's their job.
And that's why he has that. To me, that's why he has that stony demeanor, because that's the way he was created. So that makes it so much more dramatic when he just kind of like does that thing where he freaks out and he thinks that he's the one who is born from a human or born a replicant.
I knew he wasn't. Raised my hand in the theater. Okay. I called it.
We're all very impressed.
I was like, it's the chick. It's the chick.
So I think and I'm surprised to hear you say that Dave Bautista had the most personality, when I thought the person with the most organic personality was the hologram. Ana de Armas. Yeah, she was completely synthetic and seemed to have the most real human emotions.
She
was built to do one thing, and she did it well, and that's serve her man.
And it's the thing that gets me is
100%.
Really...
What was her seriously? What was her motivation other than pleasing her man? I'm willing to listen.
She doesn't. I mean, it doesn't. It's not
how is that a personality? Okay, men, I'm ready.
So here's the thing. It wasn't necessarily that. She did have a personality because she not only wanted to... So, for example, to me, this is an expression of her personality. when he takes her and he puts her in the let's call it the Amazon Fire Stick.
Yes.
Right. The Fire Stick, yep.
The Fire Stick.
The thumb drive.
The thumb drive. She's able to walk around. When she walks outside, she's so happy to have the water on her. You know, to feel not to feel because she can't feel, but to have the water reflected on her skin and to be in the car when she was driving around in that flying car. It was just such a new experience for her that she thought it was absolutely amazing.
So, here's kind of my
So
my
she
perspective.
likes water and she likes her man.
So
Who she calls Joe, and we find out that it's because she's a hoe program. She's a prostitute program. And it has been from the very beginning.
So-
and that's why she is all, quote, in love with him, because he treats her well and she knows that that's what he wants. She basically is a reflection of his wants and needs and desires, which makes her not real. She needs to have a fight with him. She needs to be a dick.
This is kind of
to be real.
What I like about this type of character arc. So it kind of reminds me of if you've ever seen Her with Scarlett Johansson and Joaquin Phoenix.
No,
and
but I heard it was good.
She's Siri,
Yeah.
but. The characters are similar. Is they have artificial personalities and they're built to make the person they're with happy. To do their bidding, what have you, which is a very non-personality type generalizing thing. But because it's a computer with artificial intelligence, it starts to realize that men are not necessarily looking for a prostitute robot all the time. Is that to please the male sensibility, you have to have humor and and empathy and understanding, and these characters they serve their man, but they do that by becoming their own person, if that makes sense. Because as a man, I don't want to just buy a robot. I mean, maybe some men do. I don't want to just buy a sex robot and have it sit in the corner and then that's my wife. I want
You stay there.
It's not that I like fighting, but it's I like when females have their own personality. That makes me more happy than just so that's kind of my perspective. That's why I think it is honestly a better love story than some natural love stories.
I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it, and the reason why I didn't feel it is because even at the beginning, she offered to put some kind of type of music on or read a book or whatever it happened to be, and he's like, "Oh, you hate that." And that immediately tells you that she was already willing to put anything that within her program limit she would want in order to make him happy. So again, every part of her personality is still built to make her happy. She was not complex enough to be a real person, unfortunately.
You don't know if she was complex enough or not.
She
we never got that
definitely
information.
Which makes her not a complex character.
My thing is love is a complex emotion.
Yeah.
So my thing is if she can say that I love you, and she if let's say she felt that love or that love was programmed into her, they were able to take that emotion, love, which is one of the most complicated emotions in my opinion in the world, and take that exact emotion and put it into a robot. I think to me, just right there, that's a level of complexity that is undeniable in who she is. And so just to go back to your point, John,
it's a machine's understanding of what they think love is.
Well, and it was, quote, good enough for him, and his poor little sad life, which again, you feel bad for him, but he doesn't have much personality to me. I just felt like he was a sad individual who died sad. He lived and died sad.
He died with a purpose. I mean, the replicants.
Why did he have to die? Why did he have to die again? What was his sacrifice?
It's all about his sacrifice.
Why?
What he did. Why? He saved Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
But he could have. How many of them damn Band-Aid patches did they have all over the place? I mean, they fixed him up with no problem. He didn't even ask for a Band-Aid patch. He's not like, hey, in that huge facility where they have all of this awesome equipment all over the place, you guys don't happen to have a freaking Band-Aid, do you?
No.
Maybe he
his
went through
bitch ass just laid down on the steps and went, I guess I'll die now.
Well, maybe his whole life he had fumbled for meaning, and then he finally found some, and then he achieved it. He's like, well, what am I gonna do now? Go get a job at AT&T? Come on.
No, if he really thought that was his purpose, then he would have stayed to help protect Harrison Ford and his daughter.
I can't get the image out of my head of Ryan Gosling walking around with his shirt off with a Barney Band-Aid over where he got stabbed. That's in my head forever.
Been.
He's like, I'm fine now, guys.
So I think
there was no hesitation on his point to sacrifice himself. However, he also didn't have anything to live for. The only thing he had to live for at all was the Ho program, and she died because they crushed her, and she can't come back, even though she's been replicated all over the place.
But that was his.
It would take him forever to teach a new one how to like him. So...
Sounds terrible.
I know, right? That's my perspective.
Kind of sounds like an organic relationship to me. I don't know.
It kind of reminds me of Ready Player One. When in the book, it has it where he gets a sex bot.
No spoiler
No
alerts.
spoilers
I'm reading it right now.
Oh, it's
Okay. I made him read it because it is amazing, and they're going to Ender's Game that crap, and I'm going to be so angry.
I know. We can have a podcast about it.
I don't think my anger. I don't think I'll be able to breathe if they screw up Ready Player
if they
One.
Ender's Game that one.
If they Ender's Game that one.
So I'm gonna close this off here with going kind of full circle here with a point I think we can all agree on. So the original character that Jared Leto played. Hang on, I'm looking up the character's name right now.
Can't remember.
Wait. Neander Wallace. So Jared Leto's character was written specifically for our friend from Valerian, David Bowie. So could you imagine how much better that character would have been as David Bowie?
Yeah.
That whole kind of creepy omniscience. It's and Jared Leto's a great actor, but it would have been perfect. So
oh my gosh!
And also full circle.
I know, right? In full circle, yeah.
Rutger Hauer was in the original Blade Runner. Ridley Scott and Luc Besson are friends, and that is why Rutger Hauer has top billing in Valerian, despite only being in the opening scene.
Oh, that makes sense.
So again, we promised despite our meandering off into the wilderness of our opening.
I think that's
kind
of the point of these podcasts, though.
Yeah, it's just a blah blah blah. Here's what I think. Blah.
So what you're saying, it's all about who you know.
Yeah. Hollywood's just
and they actually entered. When you think about it, they Ender's Gamed Valerian because Valerian is like one of the most famous comics in the world, evidently, and. Star Wars, the Millennium Falcon, is actually based off of one of the ships. Valerian.
I was thinking that the whole time. I'm like, that ship looks like the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, they didn't steal it. It was the reverse. Actually, George Lucas used that as his inspiration when he wrote that because Valerian came in 1967. Of course, the first Star Wars in 77.
I like it. So
guys.
So there we go. So, all right. Comics, Millennium Falcon, David Bowie. This has been our Lunar Harpoon podcast. Check us out, lunarharpoon.com. You're there right now, unless you're listening to us on SoundCloud.
Yes, indeed.
So check out our YouTube channel. You might find something you like. Also, read the Harpoonist blog spot. We talk about all sorts of random nerdy things you probably care or don't care about. Why not? You definitely fall into one of those categories.
You get a 50-50 shot.
If you got a Facebook account, Denver Comic-Con is now taking suggestions for content providers to be speakers and featured guests at their convention next year. And I think we've kind of come to the decision that we're not going to pay to go to Comic-Con again. So if you want to see us there, you can. But go over to Denver Comic-Con's Facebook page and say, hey, let's get Lunar Harpoon on the bill.
Yeah, can we be a dark horse long shot
candidate,
right. Please, with 1% of the vote? That'd be awesome.
Hey, you know what? If you have two friends and they tell two friends, and that's already like 20 people.
That's a pyramid scheme.
All right, Harpooners, thanks for listening. This has been the podcast, and we will see you again next time.
Have a good one.